Good morning, everyone. If you are going to start your work in the Indian Railways as a bidder or as a contractor, definitely you have to know about the general contract conditions of the contract for the works 2022. And if you are working as as an officer or as a employee in the Indian Railways and you deal with the contracts, then you should know about the general contract conditions of the works, how the works are dealt with this GCC. So here is a we are going to discuss briefly what are the benefits or what are the requirements for the tenderers and what are the requirements to check by the TC members during the during the tender evolution. This presentation provides a comprehensive overview of the standard general condition of contract verse 22, covering both parts. Part 1 is the instruction to tender ITT and part 2 standard general condition of contract. Myself Rashid Ashad Qadri from Zarasa Solutions, a track of learning. Kindly subscribe my channel and follow me. Here we are going to continue again. GCC of us part 1. It is regulations for tender on contracts ITT. Yani it is instructions to tender who are going to submit their bids for any contract for which NITs are issued by the Indian Railways. A regulation for tender and contracts or ITT instruction to tender. There are total 19 clauses and 40 pages related with the instructions. Important clauses are credential of contracts, tender for works, credential of contractors, tender for works. Key clauses in part 1. If here I'm briefly discussing the clause 1.01 order of precedence of documents and credential of contracts. The documents order, what will be the order of documents which will proceed to others. It is mentioned here in the clause 1.01. Clause 2, application for approved list of contractors. Clause 3, it is a tender form. Clause 5, bid security, it's EMD. The rate of EMD is a 2% of tender value up to rupees 1 crore. For greater than 1 crore, it is 2 lakh plus half percent of the excess of the estimated cost. Firms registered with DIPP, Department of Industry Policy and Promotion, are exempted from it. It may be submitted online from form of BG. Copy of the same is to be uploaded on IRAPS. Validity of BG should be 90 days of tender validity period plus 90 days of tender validity period. And EMD bid security is taken to ensure that participants in tender are genuine and will execute the work if awarded to them. If they fail, EMD will be forfeited and will be debarred from future tender of the same works. The MSME certificates are not eligible for the bid security exemption or EMD exemption. It must be checked by the tenderer that if they are submitting their documents, they must ensure that only the DIPP certificate is eligible for particular work. If it is registered, if then you are exempted, you can be exempted from the EMD. Else on the basis of MSME certificate you will not be eligible to get the exemption from the EMD. Another clause 6, care in submission of tender. The tender shall submit a copy of certificate stating that all their statements, documents submitted along with bid are true and factual. Standards format of certificate to be submitted by the bidder is enclosed as Annexure 5. Non-submission of the certificate by the bidder shall result in summary rejection of their bid. The annexure is now available on the IREPS itself, and each and every tender who is filling the form, he already submit this online. It is not required to submit separately on the as an affidavit. However, Annexure 5A for the partnership funds for the joint ventures is required to be submitted by their each individual members that for Annexure 5A. It shall be mandatorily incumbent upon the tender to identify, state and submit the supporting documents duly self-attested, digitally signed by which he is qualifying. The qualifying criteria mentioned in the tender document. Clause 7, right of railways to deal with contractors. How the railway will deal, it is only the right of the railways. Technical eligibility criteria. Clause 10.1 Technical eligibility criteria. The tender must have successfully completed or substantially completed any one of the following categories of work during last 7 years, ending last day of month previous to the one in which tender is invited. यानी tender invitation से एक महीना पहले. 3 similar works, each costing not less than the amount equal to 30% of the advertised value of the tender. Advertised value का 30%. If there are 3 works, 2 similar works, each costing not less than the amount equal to 40% of the advertised value of the tenderer. One similar work costing not less than the amount equal to 60% of advertised value of the tender. Work experience certificate from private individual shall not be considered. However, in addition to work experience certificate issued by any government organization is eligible for the technical eligibility criteria. Uh, For the similar works experience certificate, the certificate can be taken from the BSE listed or NSE listed companies also who has their turnover more than the 500 crore rupees, but they require some sort of documents also with that. So it can be checked in the GCC. Okay, what are the documents? Mandatory documents are required to be submitted with that particular similar experience, similar work experience certificate. Financial eligibility criteria. Clause 10.2 Financial eligibility criteria. The tenderer must have minimum average annual contractual turnover of 1.5 V by N crores, where V is advertised value of the tender in crores of rupees and equal to number of years prescribed for completion of work for which bids have been invited. That means in all type of cases, for example, if the work is to be completed in 1 year, that means it is equal to the advertised value. If it is to be completed in the it is required to be completed in the 6 month, then the for the eligibility criteria, the turnover will should be equivalent to the advertised value equivalent to the advertised value amount. That will be less. If it is to be completed in the next 2 years, then definitely the 2 years criteria will be less than the advertised value. Then that will be calculated. The average annual contractual turnover shall be calculated as an average of total contractual payment in the previous 3 financial years. The tenderer shall submit requisite information as per Annexure 6B along with copies of audited balance sheets duly certified by the chartered accountant, certificate from chartered accountant duly supported by audited balance sheet. इसमें यह भी ध्यान रखना जरूरी है कि उसका यूडीआईएन नंबर कंपलसरी है. अगर इफ यूडीआईएन नंबर नहीं दिया गया है तो दैट कैन बी रिजेक्टेड समरीली. Additional eligibility requirements. Clause 10.3 Bid capacity. The tender technical bid will be evaluated based on bid capacity formula. Details in Annexure 6. Small value tenders, no technical and financial credential are required for tenders having advertised value up to rupees 50 lakh. 18.1 Partnership firms. Evolution eligibility of a partnership firm, technically and financially eligibility of the firm shall be adjusted based on satisfactory fulfillment of the eligibility criteria laid down in the para 10 of the tender form, second sheet above. Other important clauses included tender credentials, clause 11, clause 14 documents to be submitted along with the tender, clause 15 in the power of attorney, clause 17 JV in work contracts, clause 19 advances to the contractors. Here we are discussing only briefly. That's why I am not telling of the details of this. To know the details about the GCC or all each and clause, please go through the documents of the GC 2022 already available on the Indian Railway website. Mandatory documents under GCC 2022. As per clause 14 of GCC April 2022 and related provision, the following documents are compulsorily to be submitted by the tender. Failure to do so may result in the subordination of the tenderer, in which constitution of the tender and affidavit of the authenticity. Constitution of the tender, ये जो टेंडर डालने वाली कंपनी है उसका कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन क्या है. Every tender must clearly establish their legal status by uploading the relevant documents. Sole proprietor affidavit declaring the individual as a sole proprietor certificate, partnership deed, registration certificate, and power of attorney in favor of who is submitting the tender. Company, private limited or public limited, certificate of incorporation, memorandum and article of association, board resolution authorizing signatory who is going to be sign the tender documents. That means it will be followed with the power of attorney. LLP society test, relevant incorporation, registered documents and authorization for the signing authority to who is going to be submit the documents. Non-submission of these documents will lead to rejections since railway needs to verify the legal status of the bidder. A sworn affidavit stating that the documents submitted, experience, credential, financial, etc. are genuine and not falsified, and this is that the company is not blacklisted and is not working with the any enemy countries of the India. This is must for all tenders. If not submitted, the tender is summarily rejected without any evaluation. Affidavit of authenticity, clause 14.8. Tender form and annexures. Tender must fill and upload the form of tender and all prescribed annexure declarations provided in the tender documents. Declaration form, declaration regarding employment of retired railway employees. If it is asked by the if it is asked, it is not a mandatory document. Financial statement, bid, if it is asked, that it can be mandated, otherwise it's not. Financial statement, bid capacity, financial eligibility statements, work detail, detail of work completed on hands, GST registration details. Missing any of these prescribed form may result in non-compliance and rejection. Technical and financial eligibility documents. Technical eligibility documents, audited balance sheet certificate from the chartered accountant to prove financial turnover as per eligibility. Required for works above prescribed threshold, usually more than 50 lakhs. Audited balance sheet, CA certificate, financial turnover proof, failure, bid rejection at the evaluation stage. Work experience certificate for similar work issued by competent authority to provide technical eligibility must be in prescribed format with value, completion date, etc. If not uploaded, tender rejected as technical eligibility cannot be verified. Both are the technical documents and the balance CA certificate, turnover certificate, and the civil nature of work experience certificate, as well as the bid security and bid security declaration EMD. Bid security requirement as per tender notice clause 5 GCC earnest money EMD. Financial guarantee required with tender submission. Bid security declaration alternative to EMD in some cases as specified in tender, DIPP, etc. certificates, or otherwise critical warning if EMD or valid bid security declaration is not submitted, summary rejection. Now it's a part 2, standard general condition of contracts. That becomes a part of agreement. Agreement start from here. Any agreement, all the execution of the work and the billing, measurements, arbitration, etc. Comes in this part. By this, the contract execution is governed. Part 2 consists 64 clauses spread across 75 pages covering all aspects of contract execution, management and dispute resolution. Key areas include definition and communications, contract management, financial provisions, time extension and penalties, dispute resolution mechanism, etc. Key definition communication clause 1 is a definition, provide definition of key terms used throughout the contract documents. Clause 4 and 5 communication and serving notices, establish protocols or official communication between parties. Clause 7 assignment and subletting of contract defines rules for transferring contract responsibilities or the sublet the contract to any other subcontractors. Security deposit and performance guarantee. Security deposit 5% of the contract value after adjustment of EMD balances may be recovered at the rate of 6% of the bill amount till the full security deposit is recovered or submitted through other mode. Refunded hour completion of work and issuance of no claim certificate, maintenance certificate or final payment under clause 51.1 may be forfeited whenever the contract is resigned as a whole under clause 62 of 1. In case the contract is resigned in part or parts under clause 62 of 1 of these conditions, the security deposit shall not be forfeited. Performance guarantee PG clause 16. 3 to 10% of the contract value to be submitted within 21 days of issuance of LOA. Normally, the work contract is asked 5% of the contract value. It is to be submitted within the 21 days of issuance of LOA. After 21 days, 12% of it is liable to be period to be paid till 60 days of the issuance of LOA. Which is not paid before the 60 days, then it can be forfeited. The EMD can be forfeited and the tender validity is completed. That's why new tender will be asked. Failure to submit PG even after 60 days, railway entitled to forfeit bid security and other due payable. If bid security exempted, DIPP will be informed. If BG is submitted, its validity should be 60 days plus 2 DOC, maybe up to 10% in service contracts, but no SD. Now it can be corrected as that's 10% of service contract. It is now reduced to 5% in service contract also without ST. Time extension and force majeure. Clause 17, force majeure clause, provision for circumstances beyond contractor's control that prevent contract performance. Clause 17A, extension of time in contracts. Procedures for granting time extension without penalties when delays are not attributable to the contractor. Clause 17B, extension of time with liquidated damages. Procedures for granting time extension with penalties when delays are attributable to the contractor. Penalties कितनी लगाई जाएंगी? It is clarified in the GCC itself in the clause 17. B, it may be from 0.1%, 0.5% to 5%. Liquidated damages for delay. Up to 25% of original period, including period of extension of time granted under Section 17E, as decided by the engineer between 0.01% to 0.05% of contract value for each week or part of the week. It is somewhere now it is changed. Please check the GCC documents. About 25%, but up to 50% of original period, including period of extension of time granted under Section 17A. 0.10% of the contract value for each week or part of the week. Above 50% of original period, including period of extension of time granted under Section 17A1. 0.30% of contract value for each week or part of the week. Bonus and engineer deployment. Clause 17C. Bonus for early completion of work. 1% of the contract value for each 30 days of early completion. Maximum bonus 5% of the contract value. Applicable for contract value above 50 crore with completion period more than 12 months. No reduction of scope more than 10%. It will be applicable only when the scope is not reduced more than the 10%. Deployment of qualified engineers. Requirement for graduate diploma holders at work sites. Number of engineers are described in a special condition of contracts is required to be deployed at the site of the work. Non-employment of required engineers will attract LD as per rates described in the tender documents. Advances to contractors. Mobilization advances. Maximum 10% of contract value in two stages, 5% immediately after signing the agreement, 5% on mobilization of site establishments, setting up offices, bringing in equipment and actual commencement of work. Against irrevocable bank guarantee, 110% of advance plus interest thereof. Stage 2 only after utilizing the stage 1 advances. Advance against machinery and equipment, maximum 10%, 75% of the cost of purchase of equipment and machinery. Against irrevocable bank guarantee of full cost of machinery plus insurance of equipment till use of the same on work. Recovery of advances. The recovery shall commence when the value of the contract executed reaches 15% of original contract value and shall be completed when the value of work executed reaches 85% of the original contract value. The installments on each on-account bill will be on pro rata basis. Advances to contractors is also part of GCC General Contract Conditions 2022. Dispute resolution and other key clauses, payment and price variation. Clause 45, measurement by railway as well as contractor. Clause 46 on account payment. Clause 46A, PVC tender having advised value more than 0.2 crore with completion period more than above 12 months. Clause 51, final payment. Dispute resolution, clause 61 and 62, determination of contract termination. That means clause 63, conciliation of disputes for contract value less than 50 crores. Clause 64, arbitration. Accepted matters. Matters those are unarbitrable. DAB, Dispute Adjustment Board, is consisting retired SAG officers. This is the mechanism of the dispute resolution, also clarified in the GCC of 2022. Kindly go through the dispute resolution in the GCC for detailing. Payment and price variation, you can also go through the GCC of contracts for the works 2022 for detailing how the price variation is calculated. PVC is calculated on the work at step for each type of work or all each type of work there is a different mechanism to calculate the PVC. I think this will be sufficient to understand the it is GCC of Works 2022. It is about a brief discussion in which we learn about the instruction to tender and the agreement condition of GCC of contracts and all the how to resolve the disputes. What is the EMD, SD, PG, and other mandatory document clauses, etc. I hope it will be beneficial for all the bidders as well as the TC members as well as the employees. Those are working with the contractor as a contractor management in the Indian Railways. Thank you for watching my videos. Thank you.